I'm still waiting for the left, the liberals, to get outraged about Roseanne getting fired for her free speech. Kimmel can be funny, and I don't mean to take anything away from that, but the fact of the matter, can you remember a political joke that went viral, what was something really funny of his? There was no attempt in humor at all in what he said, and as a matter of fact, it was a lie.
I don't wish bad on any comedian, and I hope that that each comedian can find a way, but it was false advertising to say that. I don't know when the last time you can't remember a political joke. There was no joke in that monologue, from Kimmel. It was just a diatribe, a political diatribe trying to score points for his side. And at that point, that's false advertising. Where are the jokes? It's supposed to be a comedy show.
Fox News didn't just interview Rob Schneider, they gave him the stage, and he used it to call out Jimmy Kimmel on live television.
In my opinion, what happened to Jimmy Kimmel, I heard him talking on some podcast with another comedian, and it's easy to get trapped in your political echo chamber, but that was the thing that made Charlie Kirk so special, was that we have to challenge our certainties. We have to challenge some of these foundational beliefs that we have to make them better. We need to make a vibrant society. We need dissent, and we need to have all sorts of opinions, and sometimes the bad opinions will inform the better ones, and sometimes an opinion that you say can get you fired.
Kimmel's been under fire lately after making comments about Charlie Kirk and what he called the MAGA.
We hit some new lows over the weekend with the MAGA gang desperately trying to characterize this kid who Charlie Kirk as anything other than one of them, and doing everything they can to score political points from it.
What started as an offhand joke ended up stirring outrage, and Schneider wasn't about to let it slide. He called Kimmel's claim a flat-out lie, saying comedians have a responsibility to be truthful, especially when their words can shape public opinion. He said Hollywood's hypocrisy has reached a breaking point, especially when it comes to comedians. According to him, if your jokes align with one political narrative, you're celebrated. But if you challenge the status quo or question certain ideologies, you're finished. He pointed out what many have quietly noticed for years: selective outrage. Roseanne Barr was dropped overnight after one tweet that the network deemed offensive. Then came Gina Carano, fired from Disney's The Mandalorian for her social media posts that didn't fit Hollywood's preferred message. And Shane Gillis, a comedian hired by Saturday Night Live, never even made it to his first show.
I don't remember any of these liberals, especially these liberal comedians, crying and talking about free speech when Roseanne got fired off the #1 show in America. When the Twitter files were released from Matt Taibbi and Michael Schellenberger, and exposing that the Biden-Harris regime was absolutely proof that when Elon Musk released the Twitter files, said, find what you want, there was proof that the Biden administration on day one censored Robert Kennedy and others.
To Schneider, these aren't isolated incidents, they're warnings. He said this culture of silencing people for opinions has created a chilling effect that reaches far beyond celebrities. Everyday people now second-guess what they say, worried one wrong phrase could cost them their job or reputation. That's not how free speech is supposed to work. It's supposed to protect unpopular opinions, not punish them. And while some defend this by saying private companies have a right to protect their image, Schneider's point was that it's become something deeper, a system where cultural and political pressure determines who's allowed to speak. He reminded viewers that comedy used to be the one space where everyone could take a joke, where the whole purpose was to laugh at life's absurdities, no matter which side you were on. Now that freedom is slowly disappearing, but Schneider didn't stop there. He said this isn't just about Hollywood or social media outrage. What's more troubling is that this culture of suppression seems to be moving hand in hand with the government. And that's where the conversation takes a much darker turn. He pointed at the Twitter files, a series of internal documents released last year showing how the federal government allegedly leaned on platforms like Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube to remove or downrank certain posts, many of which were politically inconvenient.
And then I'm also waiting. I've been waiting a long time for the left and the Democrats, especially the Democrats on Capitol Hill, for the Twitter files that released that the Biden-Harris administration was actually using the government to pressure Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube, and especially Twitter to actually censor actual Americans through government pressure.
For Schneider, that was the smoking gun. It wasn't just companies trying to keep advertisers happy. It was government agencies influencing what Americans could see, read, and say online. And that's what brings us to the heart of the Kimmel controversy. Rob argued that when Jimmy Kimmel spreads misinformation on broadcast TV and the government or the FCC steps in, we're crossing into dangerous territory, because now the question isn't about whether something was funny or offensive. It's about who decides what's acceptable speech.
So with the FCC chairman, he didn't say that he was going to pull the license. He was going to give them a warning and ask for an apology, if what I understood on the Benny Johnson show. And so that's not the government doing it. And when 246 different stations around the country say we're no longer airing this, it's because they heard from their consumers. They heard from their customers. And they said, that's it. We're not doing it. And so Nexstar, who's a great guy over there, Sean Compton, said, that's it. He's the CEO, and said, when we have complaints like this, and none of the channels, 246, because I'm sorry, it's not just LA and New York. There are people in between who have a real sense of decency and who realize that what you had here was you had someone who wanted to have conversations and debate, and for somebody who was gunned down for that.
Here's the key difference Schneider highlighted. When someone like Gina Carano gets fired, that's a company decision made by private executives. But when the FCC or a government official hints that a broadcaster should correct their message, that's not capitalism at work. That's government pressure. And broadcast TV is especially vulnerable because it operates on public airwaves. Those airwaves are licensed by the FCC, which means any network must prove that what they air serves the public interest. If a comedian lies or distorts facts during a broadcast, it could technically be seen as a violation of that standard. Schneider's argument is simple. Once the government starts deciding what's in the public interest, you no longer have a free press or free speech. You have managed speech. He believes that's exactly what's happening now, just dressed up as responsibility. The issue becomes even more complicated because this rule doesn't apply equally. A Netflix special or a YouTube video doesn't need a license, but ABC, NBC, CBS, any network using public airwaves does. So if Kimmel's joke gets flagged as misinformation, it's not just him at risk, it's the entire station's license. And that's why Schneider sees this as far bigger than a late-night feud.
I don't wish bad on any comedian, and I hope that, that each comedian can find a way. But it was false advertising to say that, I don't know when the last time, you can't remember a political joke. There was no joke in that monologue, from Kimmel. It was just a diatribe, a political diatribe trying to score points for his side. And at that point, that's false advertising. Where are the jokes? It's supposed to be a comedy show.
Schneider warned that what looks like accountability today could easily become censorship tomorrow. His point was simple. People cheer when a voice they dislike gets silenced, but they forget that the same weapon can later be turned on them. Once you accept that it's okay to shut someone up because you don't agree with them, you've already lost the principle of free speech. Today it might be Jimmy Kimmel under fire, but tomorrow it could be anyone, Fox News, Greg Gutfeld, or any other outlet that steps out of line with whoever's in power. Schneider made it clear censorship doesn't stay in one lane. The public reaction showed that audiences aren't as passive as executives might assume. People are watching closely, fact-checking, and holding networks accountable on both sides. Viewers flooded comment sections and social media, calling out the hypocrisy of someone like Kimmel criticizing disinformation while spreading his own version of it. And right as the tension was peaking, Bill Maher stepped into the conversation.
Well, I guess you all heard Jimmy Kimmel, my friend, my compatriot. He's canned by ABC for comments he made about Charlie Kirk's assassin the day right after the FCC guy came out, head of the FCC, said he's going to revoke ABC's license. Let me just tell you something. I am not intimidated by the FCC.
On his own show, Maher said he agreed with Schneider's take. He didn't defend Kimmel's joke or try to soften the blow. Instead, he pointed out that Kimmel's framing of the situation was lazy and lacked truth. He criticized Kimmel for taking a tragedy and reducing it to a cheap political shot. What made Maher's comments even more powerful was the irony behind them. 24 years ago, Maher was fired from ABC after his remarks about the 9/11 attacks were deemed too controversial. Back then, Maher was accused of crossing a moral line, even though he insisted he was only making a broader point about American policy and public perception. Now, decades later, he's watching another late-night host face backlash under the same network banner, but for pushing a political narrative.
Jimmy's wrong, I think, to put him in one team. But, look at what this guy is doing.
There was a time when late-night television wasn't a political battlefield. It was a place where everyone, no matter their background or beliefs, could laugh together, and no one embodied that better than Johnny Carson. Carson's approach was simple: make people laugh and send them to bed smiling. He wasn't trying to convince viewers how to vote or what to believe. For 30 years, The Tonight Show, starring Johnny Carson, was the gold standard of entertainment. Carson knew his audience came to escape. He famously avoided political rants, even though he could have easily used his platform to push opinions. Instead, he joked about both sides equally, or sometimes not at all. That balance made his humor timeless. Families could sit around the TV, laugh together, and never once feel like they were being preached at.
Johnny Carson was unique in the sense that you don't really know if he leaned left or right. Sometimes he leaned left, sometimes he leaned right, but he was there to get laughs, and he realized what people wanted to do. And I remember, as when we were little kids, climbing into our mom and daddy's bed when they let us stay up late on a Friday, and we'd watch Johnny Carson, we'd all laugh together because Johnny was there to entertain.
Rob Schneider, who grew up in that Carson era, often talks about how comedy back then united people. And that's exactly what he says has been lost. In a recent interview, Schneider said the danger today is that too many comics are trying to be activists first and entertainers second, and he's not wrong. Today, everything feels political. From award shows to comedy specials, there's an underlying message in almost everything you watch. Schneider argues that this shift is why so many people have tuned out from late-night TV altogether. It's no longer an escape, it's a reminder of the same exhausting debates people already hear on the news. So, what do you guys think? Should comedians have complete freedom to joke about anything? Or should there be a line somewhere? Drop your thoughts in the comments and make sure to like this video and subscribe.